Hello. It is December 4th, day 4 of our 12 days of healing. Thank you all for sharing and really being a part of this with me. So today, what is our topic? You know I'm looking at my notes, so I won't just be rambling. So I have some notes. Today we're going to talk about by far one of my favorite topics to discuss, and that is boundaries. I first learned about boundaries and creating them and navigating them from therapy, which was our day 2 topic. And so I'm going to take my time with this a little bit because this is something that I'm very passionate about. I know I don't have to tell y'all this, but I'm not a licensed therapist or counselor. These are things that I've learned professionally and personally, and I just want to share. So I'm always here to do research with you, to learn with you, and to grow with you. But I just want to put that out there. Okay, so what are boundaries? My definition, boundaries are emotional lines created to protect, prevent, and provide. Protect you from other people's hurts and their projections, prevent you from overwhelming yourself and limiting or lowering your capacity, and to provide you with standards, particularly emotional standards, that guide you in decision making, sharing, loving yourself and others. Psychology today defines boundaries as an invisible line that you draw around yourself to identify what is acceptable behavior and what is unacceptable behavior. Now, creating boundaries is hard because we were never really taught how to communicate them or to navigate them. And I think particularly for people of color, for us, our families also were never taught those things. And so sometimes it's difficult to accept boundaries. Boundaries are evolving. They're not time bound. They can change. They evolve based on your circumstance, your maturity, your healing. And you can have boundaries around everything: physical boundaries, emotional and mental, social boundaries, financial boundaries, spiritual boundaries, and sexual boundaries. Remember, this is about healing and it is a process, right? So some examples of boundaries, like a financial boundary. Let's say you want to save, and let's say you have, family or friends that are wanting to plan a couple big trips, and you really have to decide which one you want to go to or which one you don't, based on a boundary that you've placed around your budget, based on a bigger purchase or goal that you have. A personal example for me around a boundary is I have created boundaries around sharing or discussing my intimate relationships, my dating life, with members of my family. Now, members of my family, they always ask, so who the POI? That's my family's way of saying person of interest. Who's the person of interest? Who's the POI? But I've learned that sometimes, I know my family, they love me, but the way they express their thoughts and their fears and their projections don't always benefit me. Sometimes it hurts me rather than help me. So I have created a boundary about when I share, what I share, and who I share with. So when we're talking about creating boundaries, what does that look like? How do you do that? Creating boundaries goes really deep. With us, people of color, where our families and traditions are deep rooted, we want to be clear that we're not creating boundaries to push people away. We are creating boundaries that create a safe space for us, a healing space for us. And everyone's not going to understand your boundaries at first. People that love you the most are going to push back, they're going to challenge, and that's okay. That comes with creating this space. So The first thing I think you should do if you're trying to create boundaries around whatever it is to really be honest about where you need the boundary. You may need to create boundaries for yourself, not for other people. There may be things that you need to create boundaries around yourself with. So take some time, sit with that, identify what hurts, what gaps are there, what you need to improve. And then once you've identified the areas that need a boundary, then you have to set that boundary in place. And that's either, a communication, an acceptance, or, navigating that space. For me, I started off announcing my boundaries. Like I was telling everybody, okay, you're here, here. That didn't work well. For me, when I identified the place that needed a boundary and I created those invisible or emotional lines and standards, I didn't have to announce them. When those topics or those opportunities came up, then I already had in mind how I wanted to navigate them. And so that may be easier for some family members instead of you just making the announcement, especially when you're not quite ready. And so I just allowed the opportunity to happen, and then I practiced that boundary when the opportunity happened. So you need to ask yourself, how does this boundary help me? How does it heal me? What should I avoid? Who should I avoid? And then create templates or thoughts around answering those questions or responding to family members. When family asks me, like, hey, who's the POI, the person of interest? I will have a response to be like, I'm not sharing that information right now. Or there isn't a person of interest that I am, ready to share. Creating boundaries takes practice, it takes time, but I have learned how beneficial it has been for me. So I'm looking at my time, it's 7 minutes. I didn't want to rush through this. I wanted to take my time. Y'all know I'm just coming straight off my notes and straight out of my heart. I'm not editing any of this. I want it to be raw and authentic and real, but I don't want to keep you here all day. So, if you have any thoughts about anything, comment or DM me or text me, let me know. And y'all have a good day.